And this is Brandon Helwig of UCFsports.com, and excited to be joined today by Carlos Zimmermann, the play-by-play voice of the Sam Houston Bearkats. Sam Houston is a member of Conference USA. They're in their second year of FBS, and they visit the Bounce House this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. The Bearkats are 1-0. They beat Rice last week on the road, 34-14. Welcome, Carlos.
Brandon, appreciate you having me, man. Yeah, exciting weekend ahead at the Bounce House. Will be my first trip to UCF in Orlando, so it'll be very exciting for sure.
Awesome. So just tell us a little bit about your background with Sam Houston, because you go back a few years. You graduated, am I correct, from Sam Houston State, and you've been this is your third season of being the play-by-play voice of the Bearkats?
Yes, sir. So I transferred here from community college here in Texas over to Sam Houston in 2019, and then graduated in the fall of 21, and then did a semester of my master's, and then the guy before me departed for North Dakota State, and so I put my name in the hat, and they decided to go with the young 24-year-old fresh out of college to do the games on radio. But this is year 3, very excited, and it's been interesting getting to be a part of really so many different transitions for this program, going from the Southland to the Western Athletic Conference, and now making the jump to FBS football, the creme de la creme of college football at the FBS level in Conference USA. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. So how much fun has this been, just this journey to FBS? I know last year you guys, you started on the road at BYU. You got to go to places like Air Force, 2 very scenic venues, by the way. And obviously Houston's just right down the road from you guys. So how fun has it been kind of following the program through this historic journey?
It's been a blast. I mean, I'll say it's surreal, really. I mean, I never ever thought I'd gain an opportunity to be a part of such a historic program in Sam Houston with the success they had at the FCS level, and now being able to translate that to the FBS level. I mean, it's a blessing for sure. But going to a lot of different places, and that's why I'm ultra excited for Orlando, because I've heard so much about UCF and the Bounce House and just the prestige that UCF has now, also being in the Big 12. But it's been a journey. And I know it's just slowly starting to begin.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about Sam Houston as a university. You guys are in Huntsville, Texas. That's an hour and a half north of Houston somewhere. You're kind of maybe an hour east of College Station, so you're kind of in that part of East Texas. Just kind of tell us about that community. Huntsville, is that sort of the town that everything kind of revolves around Sam Houston, or just kind of tell us about Sam Houston in the surrounding area?
So Huntsville, you said it, about an hour and 15 north of Houston, hour east of College Station. So kind of that little midway point, if you will, between Houston and Aggie land. I call it the gateway to the East Texas Piney Woods, because it's just the locale here. It's just so beautiful with the trees, and the people here are absolutely incredible. So down to earth. It still has that small town feel for a town being 50,000 people almost. So it's just a tight knit community. They love their Bearkats. They love the local high school team here, the Hornets. It's a great place to be. And the university is also, I argue, and this is probably me being biased, being an alum, but it's one of the best universities in the Lone Star State, if not the country at large. So, that's all there really is to say about it. It's beautiful, and the people are beautiful, and couldn't be more blessed to be in a great place in Huntsville, Texas.
Okay. We'll dive more into this Bearcat football team. Head coach Casey Keeler, he's been at Sam Houston for a decade now. I think he was hired in 2014. He's been one of the most successful coaches in school history. He led the program. Willie Fritz, it's kind of interesting. He was the coach that predated Casey Keeler in the early 2010s. And obviously he's now down the road at Houston. But a few years ago, in that kind of odd COVID year, the FCS programs, they played their seasons not in the fall of 2020, but in the spring of 2021. And that was the season Sam Houston won the FCS National Championship. I know you were there and you were obviously following the program back then. Just what was that season like? Because it was kind of a different time. Obviously, no one's used to playing football during those months, but how fun was that journey? I guess the championship was in Frisco, Texas, right up the road north of Dallas. So how fun was that journey, following Sam Houston winning a championship?
I mean, it's not every day that you're part of a program that wins a national championship and you're a student getting to participate in it. It was different because we were still trying to get out of COVID. I mean, COVID was still very prevalent in the spring of 21. So there's all these regulations and everything. So with us being on student radio, I was a student radio broadcaster at the time. They wouldn't let us be in the press box like we normally would. They would have us on the visitor side, where there's no press box about us on the visitor side. It's just open air. You're in amongst the fans and everything, and that's how we were calling games. And so I called about 4 during that shortened season prior to the playoff run, and then being a part of that just incredible playoff run. 4 exciting games, nail biter with Monmouth, a come from behind win against the Kings of the FCS, North Dakota State, and then my first ever game on the former flagship station of the Bearkats was the James Madison game. I filled in for my predecessor and mentor Rob Hipp that day, and that was just such an exciting experience for that's my first game, and it was one of the greatest comebacks in recent college football history. And then of course the national championship, getting to do that on student radio, that was a blast too. But man, just being around that program in the spring of 21, that's what athletic director Bobby Williams, that's the reason why they didn't play in the fall. They wanted to play for something big, and that was the national championship. And I'll die on this hill. That was the catalyst for moving Sam Houston to start this process of moving to the FBS, was winning that national championship.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about that, because 21, that was a big year just for the future, for the history and everything. You're winning the championship, and then in November of 2021, it was announced that Sam Houston would go FBS and join Conference USA 2 years later. So just kind of talk about that process a little bit. Did it come to a surprise to those who followed the program? You just mentioned James Madison, you've seen other programs take that step the last few years. So was there always maybe whispers that, Sam Houston would be a program that would try to make that jump to FBS?
I think when you look at the grand scheme of the FCS at that time, a lot of people maybe thought it would be the North Dakota States or the South Dakota States to make that jump first, just because of the success they had. But Sam Houston was right up there with them. And it did come as a little bit of a shock to us, because Sam Houston had just moved to the WAC from the Southland. 34 years in the Southland. They had announced the year prior they're moving to the WAC, and because they were bringing back football. And then November comes around, and I see something come across my phone, and I texted my buddies. I'm like, guys, we're going to Conference USA. And they're like, no, there's no way. Because, and that's just my friends being pessimists. But I was like, no, this is a real thing. And about a couple of weeks later, it was the introductory press conference to go to CUSA. So it did come as a little bit of a surprise, given they had just made this already big transition from something you had been accustomed to Southland ball for 34 years, and then you move on. And now you're making an even bigger jump. And there was obviously a lot of skepticism with it. And they were wondering, like, oh, well, is Sam Houston ready facility-wise? Is Sam Houston ready financially? And I think everything really just fell into place over the last year in showing that, yeah, this was the right move to move to Conference USA, because you look at the landscape of college football, or let's just say college athletics, period, it is ever-changing. And I think Sam Houston found themselves in the right place at the right time to make the jump. And I think on the field and on the court, it's starting to show dividends that, yeah, they can compete at the highest level of college football and other sports too.
What does that just do for the fan base and the Huntsville community and the student body, just in kind of creating more engagement and more fandom within the program? I know this was years ago now with UCF. They've made a similar journey. They started out as a Division III program, went up through all the levels. We're a Division I AA program. Their first year of FBS 1A was 96. And so for a lot of the student body that was there in the late 80s, early 90s, they probably weren't as engaged as they would have been if UCF, would have been playing at the highest level of college football. So are you kind of seeing that, or you think students are maybe more interested than they were just a few years ago? Is the community kind of revolving or kind of supporting the program a little bit better now?
I would say so. I think the community is definitely more energized and seeing that, hey, I mean, look at Sam Houston. They're making a name for themselves amongst the big boys of college football now. I mean, this last weekend, there was so much buzz of like, oh my gosh, Sam Houston beat Rice, and Rice has been an established FBS program for years. And that's not to take anything from Rice. It's a very good team that Sam Houston saw on Saturday. Just my opinion, I think Sam was just a better team that day. But to your point, I think the fans are energized about it. This student population is very growing. This freshman class is the largest in school history that's come in. And I'll tell you this, parking is a nightmare on campus. So it tells me a lot more people are coming to
Yeah.
Sam Houston, but there's a lot of people that are just jazzed up. They're excited to go to games. First home games next week against Hawaii. And they're going to have a drone show after the ball game. So the athletic department, and combined with the marketing department, they have done a great job just trying to get fans more engaged with this team, because they know what this team's capable of. And if last Saturday was a glimpse into the future, then yeah, this town's going to be buzzing for all season long for the Bearkats.
Yeah. Where do most of the students come from that attend Sam Houston? Are they from the greater Houston area? Is that kind of where you see the bulk of the population covers, just anywhere around Texas, really?
Bulk of it is from the greater Houston. A lot of the alumni base is in Houston, but you pull some from Dallas a little bit. Like I said, it's an interesting spot for Sam Houston. It is a commuter school, being so close to Houston. So there was a lot of people I went to class with. They would go to class and they would drive back home the next day, and or not the next day, but after the class was over. So it is a commuter school, so it makes it a little interesting on the weekend if you can get students to come out. But I've noticed a lot more students are willing to, find an apartment here in Huntsville or live on campus, because they enjoy the campus life. So yeah, to your point, greater Houston area, but even some students from out west in College Station will come here. Up the way in Dallas, I knew actually a lot of people from San Antonio too. So it is an all around state, but Houston's the bulk of it.
Yeah, talk about last season a little bit before we get into this year's team, because it's the first year of FBS, and there were some pretty close games I see early on, but it was a tough start. I think 0-8 to begin the year, but Sam Houston ended winning 3 of their last 4 games. So just kind of what did you learn about the team last season, and just kind of what were the expectations from last year going into this year?
I think the big word that I took away from it was just resiliency. I mean, you're the last winless team in the country when you were 0-8, and that's obviously a mantra you don't want to have, or a moniker you don't want to have. And a big part of it was because, the team had suffered a lot of injuries. Sam Houston was down to their 8th running back at that point. In the Louisiana Tech game, one of our starting linebackers was rushed in for 2 touchdowns. So the offense was rather depleted of the talent that had really benefited the program prior to the jump to the FBS level. A lot of players took red shirts so that they could be able to play their first full year with no restrictions at the FBS level. So I think there was a lot of combinations in there. And then, I mean, you look at 0-8, that could have easily been 4-4 with the one play away games, or you don't make this mistake, you probably win the game. 3-9, it was great to see the Bearkats win 3 of their last 4, really give them that momentum boost going into the offseason. But the team easily could have been 8-4 with the way they performed, and then filing an appeal to make a bowl game. So yeah. It gave them a lot of hope into the offseason, and the staff, and I was talking about this with Mark this morning on his radio show. I said that, the staff realized what they needed to do. They needed to beef up on strength and conditioning, nutrition, get the guys in a month, not that they weren't healthy, but get them even more healthier state so that they could acclimate to the FBS level, because, folks, it is a jump from an FCS level type of program to an FBS level. So yeah. That was the few things they wanted to do, and I think it's paid off so far.
So this season, I think whether preseason predictions don't really matter much, but I think Sam Houston was predicted 5th in Conference USA this year, middle of the pack. So is there when we talked to head coach Gus Malzahn the other day, he said this looks like a team that he thinks could be good enough to win Conference USA this year. So, and this is also the first year that Sam Houston will be eligible to reach a bowl game, correct? So last year they were in that transitional period of time. So everything's on the table this year. So what are sort of the expectations this year, second year of FBS? Is it to get to compete for a conference championship, or just see what happens?
Well, when I talked with Coach Keeler prior to the start of the season last week, I asked him, I was like, it is with the way you have built this staff and the way you have allowed them to just be able to build this team, are you settling for nothing less than competing for the conference championship? And he said, absolutely. So the program feels like they can be in the conversation not only for the conference championship, but they know what's at stake too. If you have a solid enough season as a group of 5 program, you'll be considered for the college football playoff for that 12th seed. So they know what's at stake, but the way they've been able to handle everything is they always go one game at a time. I know that's coach talk. I get it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of truth to it. You have to be able to go one game at a time. You have to focus on UCF before you can worry about Hawaii. So they know that they can compete with everybody in the conference. They can compete with some of the best teams in the country. I mean, you look at Rice last week, coming off of 2 straight years making a bowl game. And now in a time where Sam Houston is in a perfect place to have themselves get into a bowl game or even a conference championship, that's what they're going for. And I'm here for it.
I know Sam Houston, they sort of turned some heads last week, and people who maybe aren't that familiar with the program like you are, just seeing what they did at Rice. I take it you weren't surprised by that. You weren't that end result seems like something you maybe expected going into it. So what did you learn in that first game, you think?
I learned that Hunter Watson's a heck of a quarterback. I will say that. And you look at previous quarterbacks that have come through this program all the way back to Josh McCown in the 2000s. Hunter Watson just has that it factor. He's your true dual threat. The pass that he made to Quavez Humphrey, 67 yards, that opened the scoring on Saturday, it blew me away. My color analyst Brian Adams, he pointed, and I was like, "Look, he's open, and Watson's on the run, and he makes this throw, and I'm like, man, I haven't seen that happen in a long time, and it was just it was a sight for sore eyes. And that's not to take anything away from previous quarterbacks in the program, but it was amazing to see. The defense looked very stout, especially on the running side of things. And I know that's a big talking point going into this ballgame because UCF's coming off of albeit against New Hampshire, but a 450-yard plus rushing performance and going up against a really tough run defense in Sam Houston. So that's really what I took away. I wasn't shocked that Sam Houston won. I had a feeling like, okay, this is a game that Sam Houston can win. I didn't expect the result, a 20-point just win, and you led wire to wire. That I wasn't expecting, to say the least. And that's either me not having enough belief or not realizing that, this team, this is the real deal.
Yeah. What did it mean just kind of being there in the stadium? I know you mentioned it earlier, Rice right up the road in Houston. You guys have clearly a big alumni base in that city. Just to kind of have a win like that, to kind of, guess maybe it's one of your first bigger wins as an FBS program. What do you think that win meant to the program and the fan base?
It's back to that earlier point. I think the fans base is even more energized now than they were going into the season because they saw that game and they were like, oh, this is what the program's been building for the last couple of years. And it was great to see. At the start of the game, it looked like at one point that Sam was out attending Rice at that ball game. Like I know Houston was playing across town and really getting the hammer laid on him by UNLV, but Rice still brought a good fan base, but so did Sam Houston, and that's because of the alumni base there. But I think a lot of people also made the trip down 45 to Huntsville, from Huntsville to Houston, to go see their Bearcats play. So they're energized, they're excited, and if anything, it gave them some hope going into this ballgame because Coach Keeler said it. This is a different animal with UCF.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the quarterback, Hunter Wattson. I read a story, earlier this week about kind of his recruitment because quarterbacks, I forget what the stat is, 60+% of them are transfers, and it seems like he came from junior college, and it seems like with the transfer portal, junior college recruiting is sort of being overlooked maybe than it would have been, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So just kind of tell us about him and his recruitment to Sam Houston. It seems like he kind of was being ignored by a lot of other schools before, Casey Keeler and staff discovered him.
So, what I heard is like general manager Clayton Barnes was stunned that no one was looking at Hunter Wattson. And
he played for a great program that won a championship at the junior college level. Yeah,
that was the stunning thing. A near 2,000-yard season with Iowa Western. He also has his left tackle coming over here with him, Luke Eckert, and so there's that familiarity there. But they were shocked that no one was looking at him, even though he was on the grandest stage of the junior college level. And there was obviously some skepticism because it's such a huge jump, junior college straight to FBS ball. You brought in a guy from Central Michigan and Jace Bauer, who from the early onset looked like he was going to be the starter with just his experience at the FBS level. But they got blown away by Hunter in the spring and into the fall too, just with the way he commanded the quarterback position, the way he was just calm, cool, and collective in the pocket when pressure's on him. So there's obviously still some kinks they want to work out with him, but to say the least, they found their guy, and they're going to run with him.
Yeah. Well, tell us, are there some other Garrett players on offense to watch? I think you mentioned Quavez Humphrey, one of the receivers earlier. Just who are some of the names that, people watching the game on Saturday should pay attention to on Sam Houston?
So, yeah, for one, Quavez Humphreys is a great one to watch out for. I mean, this is a big dude for a wide receiver, 6'2", 220 pounds. That's a lot of man right there for a wide receiver, so you're going to want to watch him. But you want to watch what I think I've dubbed the human highlight reel, Ife Adeyi at wide receiver. He is the longest tenured Bearcat on the roster. He was he was a freshman when I got to Sam in 2019. And he's been with the program a very long time. Injured into the third game into the season last year against Houston. Heartbreaking. He's the heart and soul of that offense. And then he comes back this year. If Sam Houston versus Rice got any more attention, he made one really exciting move where he put 2 Rice players on skates, and that probably would have made SportsCenter that night if it got a little more attention. But he's just electric out there on the field. At running back, it's kind of a 3-headed beast, if you will. John Gentry, Jay Ducker, and DJ McKinney, who was one of the younger guys on the offensive side who got a lot of action against Rice. So those are some guys to watch there too. And one of my favorite stories is Elijah Sohn, Sam's tight end. He's a former swimmer at SMU and Texas A&M and came over to Sam Houston as a walk-on and took the starting tight end role from Sam's starter a year ago. And he's taken that role this year too. So definitely some electric names on offense.
That's wild. I'm not sure if I've ever heard of a swimmer coming over to football and being in a position to play a big role as he did. So I take it he played football too in high school, I imagine.
Yes, but that was his primary role at SMU and Texas A&M was swimming, but then walked on at Sam Houston, and well, here you are.
Okay, that's awesome. Now looking at the defense, I know you said Sam Houston had a pretty good run defense. So who are maybe a couple names to watch on that side of the ball?
Up front, Matthew Aribasala up in the middle. He's one to watch. He had a lot of tackles for loss against Rice. But Javon Leon is another one of the longer tenured Bearcats on that D line. From the linebacker core, it goes to the guy, Kavian Gaither, who's the Mike linebacker. He's taken over that role from Trevor Williams, who was one of the more electric defensive players for the Bearcats over the last few years. And then in that secondary, it was impressive to see David Fisher, who had the pick 6 that really changed the game against Rice last Saturday, along with Houston Christian transfer Isaiah Cash, Davion Armstead. There's a lot of depth in so many of those spots, especially on defense, and that's what I think defensive coordinator Skylar Cassidy's excited about. That's what Coach Keeler's excited about, and I think that's what the fan base is excited about. There's a lot of guys that can step up defensively and make plays for you every single down.
I know after one game for UCF, I think for people who follow the program for a long time, the offense, maybe other than the quarterback position, which with KJ Jefferson, that was a little bit rocky this past weekend, but everything else offensively, the running game looked probably maybe the best running back room UCF's ever had in their history. The defense looked a lot improved. UCF brought in a lot of transfers, a new D coordinator in Ted Roof. So we're still kind of trying to ascertain, how good this UCF team is going to be this year. Do they have the horses to compete for a Big 12 championship? I know they kind of were predicted middle of the pack. Can they be better than that? We don't know yet. Just like you may not really know how good this Sam Houston team is going to be quite yet, despite the big win at Rice. But just looking ahead to Saturday, for Sam Houston to be successful and who knows, maybe have a chance to keep it close or win, what do you think needs to happen?
Well, they need to control the turnover battle for one thing. They can't afford that. If I recall correctly, Sam did not turn the ball over once against Rice. Run defense is going to be paramount because of that electric running back room. I was watching Coach Malzahn's presser, and he said any of these running backs can start for any team in the country. And watching film, I agree that they can. So it's a matter of being able to hold them down, and then being able to keep KJ Jefferson, be able to hold him at bay, because I know he's such a downhill runner. You saw that at Arkansas.
Yeah.
You see that here at UC. We'll see that here at UCF too. So if they're able to stifle the running game and be able to keep up what they were doing on offense, it will be a very competitive ball game, I think. I know the spread was -21 UCF, but I think it has the potential to be a lot closer than that.
All right. Well, Carlos, I appreciate your time. I've really enjoyed getting to know and learning more about Sam Houston, and our fan base will as well. Everyone's looking forward to the game on Saturday, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll be flying out tomorrow. Very excited to make a trip over to Orlando. I haven't been to Orlando for a game. I've been there for vacations or whatever. I mean, Disney World.
Of course. Right.
But yeah, I'm excited. It'll be a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, Carlos. Take care.
You as well.